The news from Giancarlo changes everything. Enoch wonders if it's a ruse by Sakapis, but Steelshod nips that line of thinking in the bud. Varley tells Enoch about Alejandra and her fallen lovers and their exemplary service at Kilchester. The trio vouch for Duke Diaz's genuine devotion to Torath and general morally upstanding attributes, and Alexander and Joran can confirm that Giancarlo can be a bastard in trade, but he's a good man and relatively trustworthy. If the numbers Giancarlo provided are accurate, Enoch now raises a critical question. Do they keep hiding behind their walls, or do they take the fight to Terbjornsson? It's not as though they will have a good way of getting the newcomers inside the inner circle, past the thousands of enemy soldiers, and even if they could, they can't supply them. But in a coordinated assault, that's a different story. If the defenders of Nahash pour out and engage Terbjornsson on the snow-covered plains south of the city, and the Casselines strike from behind, well, maybe that could work. They have a lot of preparation to do, and little time in which to do it. Varley begins sketching out possible approaches. Responses, counter-responses, formulating the broad strategic plans they will implement. He works closely with Alexander and Enoch as they figure out where everyone fits in this puzzle. Perrin, Steelshod's other trainers, and many of the Serpentes all work together. They prepare the thousands of conscripts and volunteer soldiers from the civilian population, drilling them in the maneuvers Varley will be expecting them to perform. Joran continues sending out his stealth teams to harass the sentries and to plot the best approaches out from the inner circle, how they can rapidly move 20,000 or more soldiers out into the edge of the city. They also plan how to get the word to the Ruskins. Alexander wants to try one last time to get their help. If the Ruskins turn on the Svards, that could help turn the tide substantially. But they need a way to contact them, and a suitably enticing carrot to dangle in front of Bayard Sokolov. Terbjornsson and Sakapis begin to push harder at the inner circle. The Jarl of Jarls is growing exceedingly impatient. Fed up with the non-committal support from the Ruskins, concerned that Steelshod may have gotten to them, he sends out probing assaults to test the walls on a regular basis. At his war council, when reports come in of increased activity coming from Steelshod testing the perimeter, Terbjornsson says he suspects they are planning some new play, and he begins dispatching larger forces to counteract them. In particular, he dispatches a large portion of his Ulfsknar to ensure he has strong scouts and full cover of easy communication. In command of this new, tight perimeter is Warden Two-Soul, the most respected and deadly of all the Ulfsknar. It is said that Woden's wolf spirit is so powerful and so in tune with him that his enemies sometimes feel it biting at their heels, a phenomenon no other Berserk save the holiest of holy men, Hroffen the Sage, has ever managed. He also sends Cyril to provide tactical support and set traps for the unwary Steelshod. With the help of some hulking Berserks, they dig out the icy dirt in the outer circle, seeding the area with pit traps and fire traps, preparing to catch Steelshod at a place of their choosing, whenever the mercenaries make their move. Cyril is growing increasingly frustrated and rattled, constantly second-guessing his status in the Svardic camp. His original plan of playing both sides is not going to work. He grows increasingly concerned that neither side will see any reason to keep him alive when they emerge victorious. So he makes a decision. With the reinforcements coming soon, the possible help of the Ruskins, and their sheer determination, Cyril is not nearly as convinced of Steelshod's inevitable loss as he once was. And besides, they have more direct leverage and seem more likely to be the type to forgive and forget. He reaches out to them, meets with Prudence in an abandoned building while working in the outer circle. He promises to help them take out Woden Two-Soul and a huge chunk of Terbjornsson's Ulfsknar if they will finally take him in, bring him into the protection at Nahash. Steelshod agrees, and the plan is set in motion. Alexander takes a few of Steelshod's active duty members and a small group of Serpentes elites, strike out of the inner circle as if maneuvering for the Ruskin camp. Drengi stays close to Alexander, and as Howls inform on their progress, he informs Alexander of what the Ulfsknar are planning. A few Ulfsknar skirmish with them, driving them towards Cyril's trapped killing fields. Alexander lets the Berserks outmaneuver them, until Woden Two-Soul descends upon them with his full force. The Ulfsknar Alpha closes his jaws upon his prey, and finds the prey's hide to be full of sharp spines. Steelshod effortlessly avoided Cyril's traps with the forewarning Cyril has given them. They form up and withstand the Ulfsknar attack, but they are outnumbered. Until Drengi howls the sign. Yoren, the rest of Steelshod, and another larger force of Serpentes suddenly arrive on the scene. He has Hrodir with him, and the Ulfsknar has been adding false howls to the mix, redirecting Woden's Ulfsknar towards Alexander and away from the path Yoren's force took, rendering Yoren and Hrodir's team effectively invisible to the enemy Ulfsknar, as they've been relying on only a few eyes and regular howls to coordinate. The move will certainly give away the Ulfsknar's presence once and for all, but this war is drawing to a close, and this gambit is worth the sacrifice. Woden Two-Soul, his 100 Ulfsknar, and his Svardic and Lorinet supplementing forces are all caught between a hammer and an anvil. He barely gets to use his nifty tier powers that let him count as 2 fighters by himself, always benefiting from Ulfsknar outnumber bonuses even in duels. He meets an ignominious end, peppered by arrows, and butchered by half a dozen Steelshod elites. His Ulfsknar are slaughtered and routed. One less Svardic champion to worry about. Steelshod had no intention of approaching the Ruskins openly here. It would give away their potential allegiance too openly. So, when Woden and his men are dead, they gather up Cyril and retreat back to the inner circle. As soon as they take Cyril into custody, Leona punches him as hard as she can in the stomach. He wheezes, an intense pain, and she gives him a feral grin. "That's for what you did to Hubie, little loony," she growls. They lock Cyril in relatively comfortable quarters at the keep, not far from where they keep Olaf. They spend hours forcing him to regurgitate every scrap of knowledge he has of the camp processes, defenders, dispositions, etc. Of course, much of this will change soon now that he has been officially captured. Torthian is kind enough to dose Cyril with the antidote to his wasting poison. Cyril, an expert of toxins, had narrowed down his suspected poisons to 2 options. When he sees the antidote, he realizes the poison was precisely the one he most feared. The stomach pains he's been having, that he almost dismissed as a product of his nerves, are confirmed as very real, and likely permanent. Every time she sees him, Leona gifts Cyril with another punch to the gut, happy to remind him of the part he played in her torture and Hubert's. Given the circumstances, and the fact that it won't kill him, none of Steelshod's command staff have any interest in chiding her, but they do take some small effort to keep them away most of the time. In a rage, Terbjornsson pushes on the outer circle hard that night, but the defenders have not run out of ballista bolts, nor arrows, and the hill up to the inner circle is steep as ever, the walls high and solid. As usual, the Svards end up retreating beyond the outer walls, out of sight of the ballistae, leaving scores of dead or dying men sprawled across the charred wreckage of the middle circle. Terbjornsson refuses to leave the outer circle perimeter lightly guarded. So, he continues to pour more troops in. Another small skirmish goes well for Steelshod. Jaspar spots a group of Vartror, 20 at least, filing into a large building in the outer circle. Alexander dispatches a force to deal with them, and he leads a larger force of cavalry out in a standard decoy maneuver. These types of decoys work because they are, in fact, a large force of cavalry. Left unchecked, they could be devastating. So while the Svards mobilize to respond, Leona, Felix, Zelda, and a cluster of other Steelshod hit the warehouse building Jaspar spotted. Felix, Prudence, Ben, Amos, and Kara engage in a sustained archery duel with the Vartror in the building, setting up on rooftops all around it, putting the Black Bear Bearsarks in a crossfire. Meanwhile, Leona, Zelda, Miles, Bear, Gwyneth, Terror, and several more of the Sons assault the ground level of the building. They surround the place, covering every exit, slaughtering the Vartror that try to slip out to get a new angle on Steelshod's archers. At one point, Zelda barrels her way in and charges up an open flight of stairs to the loft above. She is truly a human battering ram, bullying 2 Vartror off the stairs, crashing into a group of 3 more that are putting some serious fire on Felix and Amos. All told, a few of them suffer injuries, but it's another solid win. They're learning the Berserk tactics well now, planning around them, forestalling come encounters, setting up well-planned ambushes. 5 days after getting the news from Giancarlo, the Castelline merchant reaches out to them using Cyril's method of a simple smoke signal. Prudence contacts him. He says that he has smuggled Rodrigo Diaz, Alejandra, and their respective forces onto the next barge coming in tomorrow. They will be able to disembark directly into the Spartic camp in the supply area. Alone, they would be slaughtered. But he has received word from Ariste Regulus of the Legio Serpens. They will arrive tomorrow, late in the day. The time has come. Will the defenders of Nahash come out to join them? They've already decided this. Of course they will. That same night, Prudence and Chauncey slip into the tent of Artyom Kerensky in the Ruskin camp, deliver a letter to him from Alexander and the Council of Nahash, concessions they will make to Rusk if Bayard Sokolov joins the fray, allowing them to retain much of the land they've taken, reducing the tithes Tarathia has extracted from Rusk for the past century or two, favorable trade deals. For all this, they have a simple request. They want him to join the fight at their signal, against the Berserk army directly south of his camp. The note tells him straightforwardly, he need not reply, the fight will happen regardless. He can join them and profit substantially, or he can oppose them. In which case, the note assures him, whatever happens to Nahash, the Ruskin Bayards will not leave Tarathia alive. Given the ease of which Prudence and Chauncey appeared in Artyom's tent, he believes it. And when Grigory Sokolov reads the last line of the letter, he believes it too. Check your bedroll, it says. When Sokolov does as they ask, he finds a second note neatly folded. It is signed by the Black Wizard, and aside from that, has but a single line. We went to all this trouble, and you haven't even upset us yet. Thank you for tuning in to Steelshod, a series by Mostly Rights, narrated by Tailforge. You can find every chapter in text format, as well as character sheets, setting information, maps, and rule documents on the Steelshod tabletop system in the link below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can pop down to the description and use the Patreon link for recurring donations, the PayPal.me link for one-time donations, the Teespring link for shirts with the incredibly cool background art by Nobody, or use the DriveThruRPG affiliate link the next time you're looking to try a new system. If you'd like to support the author, you can find Steelshod merch on the MostlyRights.com store, or donate to the Mostly Rights Patreon, which are both linked on reddit.com/r/mostlyrights down below.